All right, Brian, it's your topic to kick it off.
Well, today is the subject that I chose of the fentanyl overdose problem we're having with the killing of our youth. We're looking at 125 to 150 deaths a day, and the role that China, the Mexican drug cartels playing it, and the left keeping the border open, so they're complicit with the deaths as well, and the major issues we're having.
Now, can we really call it overdose? I mean, it's more of like a poisoning of our population.
Well, it's murder. It really is, because the problem is that the fentanyl's coming over being laced in these drugs. Our kids are thinking that they're getting one type of drug, which is bad enough, and then they don't know that there's this drug that is extremely addictive and extremely potent added to it. So they think they're taking so much and going to get a certain high, and then they overdose because they don't know the other drug is in it. So it is pretty much murder by the Mexican cartels.
Okay, so I on this topic, I have kind of a different point of view on this.
Yeah.
As somebody who, when I was a teenager, dabbled a little. First of all, yeah, obviously they're lacing drugs with the other ones, but lacing drugs with dangerous and deadly shit is nothing new. They've always done it. Like, you never knew what was going to be in your blow. So that's really nothing new. The problem, I think, is that we're still having such high numbers of drug use. And I think the cultural problems in the United States is actually what's driving the drug epidemic. The banning of the opiate, or the crackdown on the opiate prescriptions, is pushing a ton of people to self-medicate with street drugs. And basically everybody in the U.S. is miserable and turning to drugs. Not everybody, obviously, but larger and larger percentages, even though that usage is down in kids.
Which I was going to bring up that whole subject of I don't understand this whole thing, because I've never had that personality that wanted to try this stuff. I figured I was screwed up enough without killing more brain cells and getting in trouble with drugs. I never quite understood it. So
accurate assessment, Brian.
What was that?
I said accurate assessment.
Why? Thank you, Rob. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So I was going to say, I know this is a problem with the U.S. and the demand for it and what actually is driving that up. I understand the clinical stuff like depression, wanting to experience something different, escaping your reality, artists wanting a different perspective on stuff, all that type of stuff. But still, to me, it's very hard concept to understand of why somebody would be willing to take something that is going to massively addict you and keep pulling you in, and also could kill you. Now, I also agree that the drugs that they're just buying off the street, even in the past, were being laced with other chemicals, which you never knew exactly what you were getting. But the point of the fentanyl is it's so much more potent and so much more addictive that you take even what you think is a little bit and it's killing you, because it is so much more potent. And
yeah,
the reason I'm in Washington is my second parent's health issues. She died of cancer earlier this year, and she was on fentanyl. So I know how potent this stuff is and how addictive it is, because I watched her go through it for the last couple of years, and it is nasty stuff.
What caused her to get on the fentanyl?
Her pain. She's had health issues for the last 30 years.
So it started somewhere, which was where? The pharmaceutical?
It was prescription. It was pharmaceutical.
Right.
The doctors put her on fentanyl to help with the pain.
Right. So we
opioid
got them to blame mostly for getting fucking people hooked on opioids for their own pocketbook benefit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's funny. I'm looking for number one causes of child deaths, and one article was trying to say
So do you guys even know where the whole opioid epidemic came from?
Well, I know where opium came from was India back in
no. The opioid epidemic as it exists today. So you guys are familiar with hydrocodone, right?
Yeah.
So the family that owned the patent on hydrocodone, when it was getting ready to expire, they combined the hydrocodone with what's the other mixture? Because OxyContin's like a mixture with something else. Anyway, so they got a new patent for OxyContin. And then, like, because they had the guy in the FDA in their pocket, they like bribed them to look the other way and sent their sales reps out to say that the studies show that this stuff it doesn't have addiction problems, and it deals better with the pain and all that. But they were applying for a new patent, but they used the studies on the two drugs separately, not combined in the OxyContin. So that's where the like whole opioid epidemic got in.
Yeah, I read all that.
Yeah, and so that's where like part of it came from, and then of course with the crackdown on the opioids in the pharmacy industry, or in the medical industry, doctors are afraid to write the prescriptions for it because they could lose their license for treating a true pain patient. And then there is the other problem that like once somebody's addicted to opioids, their brain creates pain, so they actually are in pain.
Oh yeah.
So it's hard to like diagnose them as drug seeking because they literally have pain.
Well, yeah, that's part of the withdrawal symptoms of fentanyl and such. Is your brain has been producing those good, happy feelings which relieve pain, and now that you're trying to get off it, it's craving it.
Right. So, but yeah, to me, I think I can actually kind of address, I think, the difference of why you never really felt the need, and why it's such a big problem now, especially exacerbated post-COVID, and that's personal connections. Like in your personal life, you've always had close familial connections. You've always had close friends that were like family to you, and it's that absence of human connection. Brad knew my family as I grew up. Dude, that whole gang was a bleep show. Like, I mean, every one of them. I mean, my mom was, I don't know if she's PTSD from being with my dad and my stepdad. My stepdad was verbally abusive, drunk, and pothead. And my dad before that was a violent alcoholic. And like, I got a sister that ended up a meth addict. I got another sister that just woo. And my brother's 45 years old and finally getting his life together.
Well, that's awesome though, that he's finally pulling it together.
Yeah.
That he survived that one.
So, but like, I think, and the core root was I had actually a lot of really close people. Like, I mean, it shifted a little bit, but like, I mean, me and Brad for like a decade, well, like close to a decade, we're like buddies, like together all the time. Maybe like probably closer to like 6 or 7 years. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, I mean, all the issues, we won't even get into the character of your aunt, Brad, but she made me feel like I had a family when my family was my family and didn't.
That wasn't my aunt, just saying.
Yeah, but you know who I'm talking about.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
So anyways, but that was like, and that provided me with like some like connections, and as those started to fray, I started going further off the path, and like Brad went through a lot of the same stuff around the same time I did, and then like hooking up with my drug addict sister around that time that I left that area didn't help the trajectory that my life was on. Luckily, I was able to get myself off it, but I think it's the human connection that leads people trying to like not just numb pain, but also feel something, because they're not getting any feeling out of the human interaction. And then you look at everything that happened with the COVID lockdowns. Like now me, I'm a pretty independent and like solitary person, but like my kids got stuck in Washington, like you're in Washington, like my buddy got divorced and moved to South Texas. my other buddy, like, he moved out to Cyprus, and after he got married, and he just like never leaves home. And like, so once the like whole COVID thing like started, like all my personal connections were gone. The only interaction that I had with people was while I was working. But like I'm pretty good at dealing with that, you know, because I'm actually kind of like a solitary person anyways now. But I also remember how much how tumultuous that was for me when I was younger.
Yeah.
So I get it. Like I get, you know, where the whole thing comes from. And I think that's, it just seems so blown, like our federal government basically, and these like state governments. And I haven't seen the breakdowns by state, but I'm actually thinking that probably a large amount of this is in blue states where they had the most restrictive lockdowns. I think it had more deleterious impact on the people in those states because they were even more isolated. I mean, we already saw it in the suicide numbers and all that. So I think that's part of what's fueling the search for it. But
yeah, I didn't see the breakdown by state, but only up to 2020. I didn't see anything for newer.
But like these trace amounts of the fentanyl in the drugs that these people are chasing, like nobody's going out buying fentanyl or looking for fentanyl. They're not trying to, hey man, I need to get a fentanyl fix.
Yeah.
And so like, honestly, I think it was weaponized. I think it's weaponized by China and the cartels, and like it's literally to kill us. I think the powers that be, the Democrat-led bureaucracies, are complicit in it, specifically because I think they don't have a problem killing Americans.
Anybody? Well, no, and I absolutely agree that it has been weaponized, and that's the point. Is they don't know they're putting it. A lot of these kids don't know they're putting it in, and they are weaponizing it to do as much damage as they can to the U.S. because it's one of the biggest problems here in the U.S. is the drug issue. And how do you destroy a country's future? You destroy their youth, and they're killing. You know, like I said, I saw one report that said 125 to 150 youth a day are dying from drug overdose because of the fentanyl additive being added into these drugs without their knowledge.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? Like, as crazy of an asshole as I think Vladimir Putin is, please don't drone strike me for saying that. He made a lot of really good points in his psychotic babble rant that he made the other day about like the degeneration of Western society. So I think that's something that has to be like kept in consideration as well.
Well, what about China? I mean, China is like where all this is coming from, but does China have a drug problem?
No, of course not. Because if you mess around with drugs, you die. Why do you think? Why do you think Duterte in the Philippines got so brutal about his crackdown? Because in Singapore, in Thailand, in China, in Vietnam, in the Middle East, they don't have drug problems there. You know why? Because if you get caught dealing drugs there, you're dead.
Well, real quick history on fentanyl and where it came from. Just so they know, China's been dealing with this for a long time. Back in 1839, Britain brought opium over from India to try to addict the Chinese to it. They fought a war over it starting in 1839 where China tried to stop them. They tried to, which China lost. The whole reason was Britain wanted to sell it to the Chinese for their luxury goods so they can bring it back to Europe. Then in 1850s, France got involved with Britain. It became the Arrow War because of the name of a ship that was involved, from what I read. And they, again, China lost that war, opening up the Chinese territories to the opium trade. So this lasted a long time with China, and a lot of people think China has some major issues or hate going to the West because of this, and it's kind of they're trying to get payment back by doing this to us. That's what some people have said. I don't necessarily agree that's the reason. But now almost all trade of of opium is coming from China. Some of it is starting to move to India as well, but still in the 90%, 99% of opium is coming from China. It floods into the Central and Southern American countries, where like the Mexican drug cartel is taking that opium, turning it into fentanyl, and then lacing it with drugs, and then sending it across the open borders of the U.S. for our kids to take. And the left is 100% complicit by not securing the borders.
Rob, is that you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's Rob. But 100% the left is complicit by saying, oh, the borders are secure. The borders are secure. It is 100% secured. Well, no, it's not. I've always hated this argument of, well, why would you build a wall? It's not going to secure the border. Is it going to stop all people from getting across the border? No. If they want to get across, they'll come across. They'll find a way across. But the point is, it funnels down so it's easier to control. When the border is 100% open, you have what you have right now, where 2 million people this year alone, and we're not even done with this year, have been caught at the border trying to sneak in. And that's just the people we know. How many more millions come across that we don't have any record of? It's crazy. Oh, well, they're going to dig under it. Well, yeah, then they have to dig under it. It funnels them into that tunnel. And then when we catch the tunnel, we destroy it. Yeah, they're going to move and build another one, but it funnels it down, so it's harder for them to come across. So the left is totally complicit by totally ignoring our borders. It's driving me crazy with Kamala Harris, where she refuses to go to the border. As you guys know, living in Texas, Kamala is supposed to be in charge of this, but yet she totally ignores it. Now she's been to South Korea and has stood on their border, but she hasn't come to our own border yet. This is just total insanity.
Well, yeah, she'll go to the Korean border and look like a total buffoon, but she won't go to our border.
Well, she had a total verbal gaffe when she was talking about North and South Korea, where she thanked the North Koreans.
Yeah, she's an idiot.
Yeah, she's just crazy. I don't know who's worse, Biden or Harris.
And the Democrats don't know that either. That's why we still have freaking Biden in office.
Well, I wonder if she's actually going to run.
25th Amendment.
I wonder if she's actually going to run if Biden doesn't.
And she better run somewhere else.
Well, she might run, but she'll give it to. It'll make it a lot easier for the right to win if she does, because everybody knows that she's nutsos.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I find interesting, I'm like, in that, what's more dangerous? Somebody that was an idiot that was wrong with everything.
Yeah.
That's brain is now melting, or somebody that's an idiot and like even has an evil cackle. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, one more thing I want to say, going back to China, for conversations as we go along, is what we need to figure out what we want to do with China, because China is totally complicit in this. The Chinese government, like I've said, I love the Chinese people. My wife is Chinese. My kids are Chinese. I've spent months in China, living there with my wife and my kids. But if you think that the Chinese government doesn't know about all this opium coming from their borders and they're directing it to the U.S., to the Americas to come into the U.S., then you're crazy. The fact is, there might be some small little things they don't know about going on inside their border, but that's tiny little things. They know everything. They have security everywhere. They have cameras everywhere. They know what's going on inside their borders. So they are extremely complicit in this. And the U.S. is to figure out what they're going to do about it, which honestly, I don't think the U.S. will do anything while Biden's in office.
No, because they have Biden in their back pocket.
Yeah. And I've heard of
that's the biggest part of why freaking the left is evil.
Yeah. And I've heard of some DAs down on the southern border that are ready to declare the Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations and the fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction because of what it's doing to our youth. So we need to decide some major things on what we're going to do about these cartels, which are starting to move across the borders. They have been for a while, but they're starting to massively move across. And you guys would know a lot more about that living on the border in Texas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even do any drugs anymore. But
anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I
you've
do a
had
little
some
bit of
drug
coke
issues in the
here and
past,
there, and I
Brad?
used my number one easiest drug to get was meth. Living in Washington State.
Oh yeah,
But
it's
now,
Okay, you guys.
nowadays I'm even scared even to do a little bump of coke because you never know. You don't. How can you trust what's in it, especially being so close to the border?
Yeah.
I mean, not that I wouldn't, because I just don't have the craving for that for some weird reason. It seems like I was smoking pot like every day up until like October, and then I caught COVID, and I didn't get tested for COVID, but I know I got COVID because I couldn't taste anything. I'd eat fish sticks, couldn't taste it. Eat pussy, couldn't taste it.
Oh wow!
I mean, drink orange juice, couldn't taste it.
I thought we were trying to make this more G-rated.
Oh, should I have said vagina? I'm sorry. The left doesn't know the difference.
Well,
so.
you don't want to offend anyone by saying they have something that they don't feel comfortable saying they have.
Hey,
Right.
I think eating cats is cultural appropriation, Brad. You got to knock that off.
Oh man, oh dude, hey, that might be laced with fentanyl too. You know?
What was one of the first things I said to my wife when I went to China? Whatever you do not feed Americans cat.
No, they feed them bat. But anyways, after I recovered from COVID, I literally stopped even craving weed. So, I mean, I guess I can thank COVID for that.
Hey, Rob, I think you're having some issues with your signal right now because you're kind of mechanical and you can barely hear anything you're saying.
You sound like Mr. Roboto Tomo.
Oh, dear God. You still there, Rob?
Oh, you might not be. Did he drop out on us?
He's still connected, but I think we've lost him a bit here. But anyway, what is your opinions on what we should be doing with the Mexican drug cartels, Brad?
Oh, I think we need to blow them up. I don't think we need to be using nukes, but I think taking them out is more than a capable.
Oh, there he is.
We know about your nukes. That's why I said.
Yeah. Yeah, Rob thinks we should drop nukes just across the border and just make a radioactive zone that people can't cross. Yeah, and there's our fence.
20 miles.
But they still would, because freedom to them is.
They won't be able to dig underneath it because the radiation will be seeped into the ground.
Yeah, I'd like to avoid the whole radioactive zone.
They're walking thousands of miles.
I don't think a little
radiation is going to stop them.
Yeah,
their lives are already at risk just making that trek. So,
sorry about that. I tend to think that what we need to do is, if we had a strong leader, if Trump was still in office, is just go to the Mexican government and tell them you're either with us or against us, but we're declaring war on the cartels and we're going to take them out.
I agree. That would be my solution.
What's your thought on that, Rob, if you're back?
Yeah, just take them out. Nuke them.
Do you think we should send soldiers?
He had to throw in the nuke them there.
No, just nuke them. Just nuke the entire Sinaloa region.
I know. If short of nuking them, because I don't think you're ever going to get support to nuke them, and I don't think anyone will ever do it. What's some other ideas?
I think it's time that we tell the Mexican government to get control of their country, or there are going to be 53 new states added, just like California was.
Okay. Yeah, which, like I said, I think it's time for us to go down and have a sit down with the Mexican president and tell him, you either take care of the situation or we're coming down and doing it, because they're killing our kids, they're killing our people, and this is unacceptable.
Invading our country.
Okay,
they are invading our country.
So what you guys have to remember is when Obrador Lopez, that Labrador Retriever-looking motherfucker, got elected, he did it by talking tons of shit about the United States. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
First of all, we need to cut off all remittances going to Mexico. Period. If you want to work and support your family, great. Go home, work and support your family. If you don't like that the gangs are in charge, well, go arm up, buddy boy, and fight the gangs. Get rid of them.
I think all three of us agree on that. Like we said, the borders need to be secured. People need to be stopped in Mexico. They shouldn't be able to cross 15 countries to get to the U.S. The first country they pass is the one they should be stopped at.
Well, I mean, frankly, I'm at the point that it should no longer be bring me you're tired, you're wretched, you're poor. It should say no vacancy.
Well, I think with legal immigration is one thing, but illegal, absolutely.
I
think
know.
we need
to take care of our people in our own country
for about
first.
50 years. We got too many problems in this country to take on the rest of the world's
I'm
problems.
with Rob there.
These people screwed up their own countries. They can fix it themselves.
Yeah.
That also includes cutting off all foreign aid. That includes cutting off all military assistance. Solve it on your own.
Well, I think the money needs to stay here in the U.S. We have enough issues. There are certain situations which Brad will disagree with. The Ukraine, where we need to be, we need to have more controls over watching where it goes to until it gets to the border. But there are certain things we do need to spend money on and resources. But most of these countries,
an answer to anything is build up another country's military while ours is perishing.
Yeah, but most of these countries we're sending money to, like Pakistan and stuff that hate the U.S., I think needs to be cut off, and we need to keep the money here.
Absolutely,
it's just crazy.
I'm not about nation building. Fuck nation building.
Yeah, no, none of us
is already falling apart. We need to be focused on us.
Yeah, we've tried nation building since World War II. We've been trying nation building. It's never worked.
Yeah, and if these people want to become socialist shitholes, then they can let them.
Well, it's causing nothing but hatred across the world. I mean, look at my wife coming from China, and she thinks the U.S. is crazy and getting in there and kind of in some ways evil on some of the stuff they've done, and they bash the U.S. over a lot of what they've done around the world. And I go, well, what
the U.S. government has done a lot of evil in the world.
I won't disagree. They've done some bad. They've done a lot of good. And I think they've done more good in this world than anyone else. But
yeah, and my thing on Ukraine, the only reason I support supplying them weapons, is because Putin is the bigger evil.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like, his speeches are exactly like Germany's pre-World War II speeches, that they were giving him a bunch of land trying to keep him from invading.
Yeah.
Like, he sounded exactly like Hitler. But the bigger reason why is because we are a capitalist nation who sells weapons to disgusting despots around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And when there is a democracy, a struggling one and a flawed one, to be sure, but a democracy that is asking to buy arms and we refuse to sell them and then they get invaded, no, that's our fault. We caused that invasion. Now, do I think that we should go fight their war for them? No. If it turns out the Nord Stream pipelines to be blown up, he should be executed for treason, because that's putting us at risk of a nuclear strike.
I still think it was Russia that did that.
I'm just saying,
you did see the video of Biden talking about how he would stop the Nord Stream pipeline, right?
Yeah, but Biden doesn't know what the hell he's saying.
I saw that, but I said before we started this, like I said before we started this, I think Russia did it to boost, because his supply to Europe has gone down so much he doesn't need anymore, with China, Turkey, and India buying his oil.
I'm on the border of who did it. I'm not 100%.
Russia needs oil prices at $80 a barrel to be making money. It was dropping. It was going down in price. So he destroyed the pipeline to boost the prices up.
Russia also needs all of Europe to be out of power in the winter as he's trying to take over this country. So.
Yeah, it's not hurting him having the pipelines off. But the reality is there are 4 other pipelines that take gas to Europe from Russia.
Yeah, there is.
Right.
But destroying the Nord Stream 2 will cause oil price, which it is already, cause oil prices to go up back up to $80
natural gas is the issue. Watch the natural gas.
Yeah.
How many houses in the U.S. are powered on natural gas? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's like 5 countries that have the capabilities of being able to do it, and Russia being one, and U.S. being the top of it.
Well, sure, and I'm not going to say the U.S. didn't do it, because I don't know.
Right, because we don't know, and
I just see more reason for Russia doing it. It seems like something that Putin would do.
We're getting off topic here. China,
yeah, I know. I was going to say, let's get back to the
we need to get.
Well, no, actually, it is kind of on topic, because immediately following that, Russia and China are doing exercises off the coast of the Aleutian chain
But what does
inside
that
our
have to do with
economic
the
zone.
fentanyl
So,
overdose and the border?
well, I think it has to do with it because I think China's intentionally poisoning it.
Well, as you know, I'm
But
from
not because
I
of
think
Russia.
as you know, I'm from Alaska. I'm third generation up there. I have hundreds of family members up there. So I was listening to they've been detecting Chinese jets off the coast of Alaska.
Dude, Biden was
That's a
out of
problem.
office. And China was still paying Hunter Biden. I think he was paying Hunter Biden for connections to his for his drug connections, not for his access to his father.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You follow
Well, how do we know that China wasn't his drug connection?
No, but you get my point. So he
Yeah.
connects. They follow the chain back through
Through Mexico.
exactly, and get to the
Gotcha.
cartels, and then they have the cartels start processing their fentanyl.
Yeah.
Right.
Like those planes aren't getting out of Chinese airspace with the fentanyl on them without the Chinese government allowing it.
I just saw an article about a bust where these people were disguising the fentanyl as nerds, bags of nerds.
Yeah, no, the Chinese government is 100% complicit with bringing those drugs over. There's no way that even, I mean, a small amount they would know about, but I mean, even a tiny amount they might get by them, but in the amount that it's coming from China, there is no way on God's green earth that the Chinese government isn't complicit on these drugs, of allowing these drugs to leave China and come to the Americas. No way. And so the question goes to, what should be our response to China, short of taking the nukes out of the question, Rob? Taking the nukes out of the equation, what should be our response to China for their
Moab?
This? Moab, just bomb them. Yeah.
Okay,
which
you
would
killed
be the start of World War
100,000
III.
of our kids. We just wiped out your little town of 100,000 people. What now?
Well, a little town in China would be 2 to 3 million. So
that's why I said little town, not a small city.
That was one of the things I learned very quickly when I started dating my wife.
Yeah, they have like 50 cities over 5 million.
I'm just from a small town in China, from Jinghua. Oh, really? How many's in there? A few 100,000? No, 3 million. It's like, oh, sorry, small town. Okay.
Yeah, bigger than all but like 10 of the cities in our country.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, wow. Okay. But anyway.
So, no, but in all seriousness, I mean, World War III is underway. It's just one of the ways that they're attacking us. You know what? People with no backbone and no soul in the U.S., they're the cause of it. That's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, they're using it to attack us, but we created the opening.
Yeah.
Like it's like we provided them the rocket, and then we're mad that they put the warhead on it and sent it.
So going back to we've created the environment for this to happen. What do we do about that as far as in the U.S.? How do we respond in the U.S. to the drug problem we have? I mean, how do we take care of this?
Honestly, I think it's going to take care of itself.
In what way?
Well, because the liberals are the problems. The liberals are conglomerated in major cities, and when Russia nukes all the major cities off the map, the liberals will be gone. Same people in charge again.
That's why I love you, Rob. You always go to the nukes.
Do I not?
No,
I hope they nuke every major city in the U.S. Now the liberals are gone.
No, I'm going to say this, Rob.
Some of our conservatives are too.
Before I would have said there was no way that Russia. Before I would have said there's no way Russia would use nukes, but with the response that Biden just sent to Russia just recently, saying if you use nukes in Ukraine, we will not respond in kind, but there will be major repercussions. Well, he just opened the window for Russia to use nukes.
No, actually, he didn't say that we wouldn't respond in kind. He said, I'm not going to say what we're going to do.
That's not what I heard. But anyway, he's opened the window for Russia, giving them at least the idea that we would not nuke them.
Yeah, and why would he think that we're going to respond to anything? Obama set the red line for Syria. Yeah. They crossed it.
Yeah.
Obama just sat there with Bush sat on his hands while they invaded Georgia. Before that, Clinton sat on his hands while Al-Qaeda was formed, and he sat on his hands while Russia invaded Moldova.
Yes.
And while they propped up the Azeris in the Azerbaijan-Armenia conflict, and we just sat on our hands.
Now, if we
And
take,
I don't see how any of that is going to fix our fentanyl problem.
but now if we take Russia nuking our cities out of the equation, do you see another way of fixing the issues that we have? I mean, do you have any thoughts on what we can do to try to fix this problem we have with drugs right now?
our Constitution gives us authority to have well-regulated militias until the conservatives in the country start gathering up those well-regulated militias, and start defending our border against this invasion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely not.
I say what we do is, if it's not a port of entry, it is open season on illegal immigrants crossing the border.
Word. Tommy.
That's what I say.
No, I agree. We need,
but yes, we certainly
as
need
long
to
as there's a demand.
We need to go in, take out the cartels, stop the drug process, and if you're going to try and cross those border illegally without going through a port of entry, your life is null and void.
Yeah, I hate going that far, but I understand where you're coming from. But I agree that we need to do something.
I think that's a perfect to stop this, because after a few 100,000 die from being shot by American citizens, they're going to stop doing it.
Yeah, I'm not going to go that far myself, but I can understand where you're coming from on that. I agree.
It's not something for everybody.
I agree. The first thing we need to do is secure the border, get the wall, finish building the wall, which the Republicans did put in their promise.
The wall was never going to be complete, so they didn't even plan to build the whole wall. They need to get
planned it to build it in the most open areas.
They need to get troops on the freaking border, like every other country in the world has troops on their goddamn border.
Yeah.
Period.
No, I agree.
When somebody comes across the border, they need to be assumed to be ill-intentioned and shot. Period.
Yeah. No, I agree. We do need to finish. We do need to get the wall put up. I think all of us can agree with that. Whether they were intending to or not, I think we all agree there needs to be a wall there to help stop and funnel this down.
Right.
But the reality is we need to get the Democrats out of power, but I don't think the Republicans will ever win an election again, because I don't see any of them doing anything to keep them from cheating in the midterms, just like they cheated in the presidential election. And I don't see them doing anything to keep them. We're about the same place where they all started changing rules. You think they're going to suddenly start changing rules again? They're going to. And by the time the election's over and they start actually, it's late. Yeah. And they're going to do the same thing with the next presidential election. It's kind of scary, but we're on the verge. I think the Civil War started and World War III. They're both already started. And fentanyl is just a part of it. That's
why we need to encourage everyone that's conservative to go out and vote conservative.
Well, I think we can do a whole.
Never ever again vote for a Democrat.
I think we can do a whole podcast on
if we
how we see the Civil War is going on right now and how World War III has started already. I think we do a whole podcast on that.
If we overwhelm the system, there's no way that they will be able to cheat.
But I mean, I think
last time they had to stop in the middle of the night to make their cheating happen.
Yeah, but no, you think they can't? Nobody in Zaporizhzhia wants to be part of Russia, yet 98% of them voted.
I know, right? What's up with that? I don't believe that shit at all.
Yeah, 98%.
And 93 and others, and 84, I think, was the lowest.
Dude, 90%. There is not anywhere in the world where 98% of people agree on anything.
Yeah,
Argentina.
Unless you're pointing a gun at them, say vote this way or you're dead.
Right, Venezuela.
So number one, secure the border wall. Put the soldiers on the border to help secure it. Take out the drug cartels. We have to take out the drug cartels to stop.
I'm laughing a little bit about Brad's Venezuela comment, because in the last election, they announced the results and never collected the ballots.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly. But taking out the drug cartels is the second phase, I think. Dealing with them, so the supply is not moving up, and then dealing with the addiction issues we have here, I think, is the third phase of that.
Well, and that again, it's gonna you're dealing with evil. At some point, you got to stop trying to deal with evil like a good guy. I'm sorry, you have to.
Yeah.
Like I'm generally not a means justify the ends kind of guy, but in this case, it does. We need
I think
to start.
in every
We need to
case,
start.
Rob, you have been that kind of guy.
Oh, I am like totally.
You just said that you're not that, but on this issue you are. But you're talking about fucking nuking.
Oh yeah,
people.
but so
every
your
episode you've been talking about nuking people, bro.
I'm just that fed up.
So your answer to the third phase of that is just to nuke everyone, basically. And it's not you nuking them; it's Russia nuking them.
Yeah, I mean I think that will solve all our problems in the U.S. The Civil War will be over. The Democrats will be out of power because they won't have any voter base anymore.
Yeah, I wish Putin thought like you.
No, geez.
Like I mean, it's scary to say, but like, if there's a nuclear war, a limited nuclear exchange between the U.S. and Russia, we'll be better off because it's going to get rid of 30-40 million Democrats.
Did you watch the show Jericho?
Yeah.
God, I love that show. I wish it was still going. They just brought Texas into it with their National Guard and then they stopped. It was like, oh, I wanted to see how Texas was doing.
My thing is, with the third phase of that, I don't know how we would do that because what are we going to do? Are we going to put all these people in rehab? Because right now, and like Rob was saying, in all those big cities run by Democrats, they are, except for as far as I know here in Texas, they're decriminalizing it and giving them safe havens to shoot up.
Yeah, no, I
do so. So instead of providing them with like, okay, if you get caught doing drugs, we're going to arrest you and we're going to put you in rehab, and you're not going to get out until you have some sort of recovery. And the problem with that is
I don't think there is a recovery from fentanyl.
Yeah, I think securing the border and so it's harder to get the supply across and taking out the cartels is going to take a huge portion of the issue we have out just by cutting back the supply. But then we're going to have to deal with the people that are now going through withdrawals because they can't get their hands on the drugs that they were getting their hands on. And a lot of that is through medication, through rehab, and being there to support them.
You can't get someone into rehab that doesn't want to go.
No, and
you can lead a horse to water,
rehab
but you
never
can't make
works.
him drink.
Rehab never works. Having some close friends that have gone through it, rehab never works unless you're willing to do it. Unless you're ready.
I was just gonna say, man, I went through rehab and it got me off of alcohol.
Yeah, no, I've had. I mean, that's the one thing my family has had issues with.
Like you were saying, it doesn't work unless you want it to work or you want to change.
No,
and like walking around the streets of Houston, you can see these zombies that are never going to be humans again.
Yeah, and that's one issue. Right. My family has never had drug issues, at least that I know of. I've never known anyone in my family who's had major drug issues, but they have had alcoholism. Mm-hmm. And that's one reason I've never been drunk in my life is because I've seen some of my family go through that. And I never got into drinking alcohol at all. But until they're ready to do it, until they're ready to hit the bottom of the rung, they're never gonna stop. They're gonna find what they need and they're gonna keep going. But
I think it's time we just wall off these cesspools. Let them have it.
Yeah, that's not. I just don't
build a wall on the southern border.
That's not feasible.
Democrat cities.
Yeah.
That's not feasible.
Sorry, Rob. I know that's the way you look at it. I just can't. I can't go that way myself.
I mean, I'm game for it, but I just don't see it happening. I don't.
Maybe I'm too compassionate. I can't do that.
So I think part of that's because I actually see these people every single day and have to interact with them. Yeah. And they're not human beings anymore.
Well, and I think all of us do because
I live in Dallas.
I mean, you're in Houston, which is a very liberal city for Texas. So you're seeing a lot of those issues. I'm up in Washington, so it's everywhere, homeless everywhere, drug. I
don't know how you can be homeless in Washington State, bro. That's fucking just too cold and too wet for me, man.
Dude, there are homeless people in Alaska.
I know. I don't get it.
You got natives flying in from the bush just to panhandle in the corners over the weekend.
You racist.
So they're not. So they're not.
Hey,
Hey,
probably
my
not
nephew,
really homeless.
my
Get it?
nephew is native Eskimo, so bring it on.
Okay, get it
You
straight, Brian. That's
Inuit.
not what's happening. What's happening is they're taking their Alaska Native Corporation dividend check,
Well, they
blowing
are.
it all on alcohol, and then panhandling for fare to get back to their village.
Well, when I was still up there, you would go into like cars which Safeway bought out, or any other retail market, and like the Listerine would be behind glass. Anything that has any kind of alcohol in it would have to be behind glass, so the alcoholics, the homeless alcoholics, wouldn't come in and steal them to drink.
Mm-hmm. One of the jobs that I did when I lived in Alaska was actually security at the transit center in downtown Anchorage.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Oh my God, we saw all the drugs there. We saw all the craziness. We saw the Listerine drunks. We were pulling them off the buses all the time.
Oh yeah, when I used to work for Brown's Electric, when I was a store manager for them, and then I went to their warehouse and worked out of there. I would come straight up from down in the port, because he's down in that area, the main warehouse, and you go right by Brother Francis shelter, which a lot of the natives and other homeless are in, and you would see people with their pants down on the sidewalk screwing each other right there. It was like, dude, seriously.
Oh, y'all saw the video I posted on Facebook, right? Of the guy yanking in the middle of the parking lot?
Yeah.
And
My
then,
biggest
and then I'm driving down the road and I just glance over and this chick's going to town on this dude with the tent like wide open.
Well, my biggest issue when I was talking to you about that, Rob.
Yeah, they had a tent.
He's like, I sat there for like I sat there for a minute and recorded this guy yanking it. I'm going, okay, number one question: why are you sitting there recording a guy yanking it for a minute?
I was hoping it would go viral and somebody would identify him and mock him into suicide.
Did you save that video and put it in your likes?
No, I went and I took it and I showed it to everybody at the gym because he kept going in the gym, like standing there staring at the people working out for a minute and then coming back in the parking lot and stroking it some more.
I was wondering why the camera was shaking it at a steady pace. I was like, what the fuck's going on, Rob?
I was laughing.
He's doing it in the parking lot. You're doing it in the car. Who's watching you?
Who's watching you, Rob?
Yeah, not my party.
You're fucking tubing right behind Rob in the back seat.
Oh dear God!
You know what? We should change the name of the podcast.
What's that?
We should call it Off the Rails.
Yeah,
we always start out with a topic and we always go off the rails.
Yeah. You should. That'd be funny. That'd be good.
Hey, that's a perfect.
I like that one.
Title. There's a lot of RVLs on Spotify.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's typed out, right? Versus left.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so I think the real the reality is I think the left is okay with killing people. They kill babies. They've killed 63 million babies. They drove the crack epidemic because they were in charge of the CIA when the CIA introduced it into the black community. It was Democrat-led government that did the Tuskegee experiments. I mean, the Democrats have never valued human life, and they don't value it now.
And that's obvious from this last hurricane that they politicized.
Yeah,
it hadn't even made landfall, and they were already judging or trying to attack DeSantis' response.
Yeah,
despite the fact that he declared a state of emergency 5 days before it even made landfall.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think the left just has a whole different perspective on human life. I mean, they don't think human life is human life until after it's already out of the womb, breathing, and almost to the point where they can talk.
Yeah, and
you know why, right?
To do abortions for anyone, even up to the point of birth, and some even go as far as once the child is being born, you can still abort it and kill it.
Oh, they want you to be able to perform abortion. They want to be able to perform abortion up into the 36th trimester.
Why they don't realize that this is so extreme totally baffles me. We're only one of 3 nations in the world that will actually go up to the time of birth.
Yeah. The thing is, the polls aren't showing that, though.
Yeah. Well, because most people don't talk about it. They say they like abortion, but all the way up to birth, they don't talk about.
No,
about 70% of the population supports abortion in the first trimester. Everything after that, it drops off a cliff precipitously, and only like 5% of the population, which would be your hardcore leftists, should just be executed. They are the ones that
at least you didn't say nuke.
push stabbing babies in the brain and scrambling their brains and then chopping them up and sucking them out of a woman's uterus.
Well, but the fact is,
they are the ones that are okay with the fentanyl coming across the border and killing kids. They didn't want the kids to exist in the first place, so let them die.
Why they want the border open.
Especially considering the majority or the hardest hit communities getting hit. Like I heard a lot of pundits saying that they only have a problem with it now because it's white people. I'm sorry. Like, that's not true. It's tearing apart black communities. Like, you drive through any black neighborhood in Houston, and there are people just, like, trapped out on the ground, like, twitching because they're so out of it on fentanyl.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is with the left is so much better at getting their word out. And if you can put your word out, then you can define what your word is going to be. So,
well,
the fact is, people don't realize that when the conservatives say getting rid of abortion, by the Supreme Court, that it's going back to the states, so each state can decide. We're not banning abortion throughout the nation; it's letting the states decide how to do that,
which is democracy that they say is under threat.
And the Democrats aren't just supporting abortion at the beginning; they're supporting abortion all the way up to birth.
Because the left is evil.
And they support human trafficking until it comes to their house, to their backyard.
Yeah.
They support that. You don't hear anything about the human trafficking, like that tractor trailer in Texas where 50
some people died. Yeah.
Say migrants because they're not migrants. If they were migrants, they would have came legally.
Yeah.
And they got
cooked in the back.
You heard something about that for like 2 days, and then that was it. You certainly don't hear anything about rape trees.
Yeah.
Trees?
Unless you're listening to conservative podcast or conservative news, you don't hear about that. If you're listening to conservative stuff, then you hear about the rape trees all the time.
And that's why the left is so good at getting their word out, because they own mainstream media. They own Facebook. They own Twitter. They own TikTok. They own Instagram. They own Snapchat. So, but luckily,
you guys getting on my side, kill them all and God sort them out?
No, I'm not. No, I sorry, I can't support just killing them all. There's got to be some other answer.
No, because there are some good, innocent civilian people. Like, I know conservatives in Dallas, Texas. I don't want them to be fucking killed. I mean, as much as I hate the Democrats.
Yeah, the bottom line is liberals are either evil or idiots, one or the other.
Mm-mm. They're both. I think we can argue that they're both.
No, I mean, but they're one or the other.
They're liberal, evil idiots.
Jeez.
The left is evil. That's the name of the podcast. Mm-hmm. So, but and their arguments are just insane. Like, I mean, I keep going back to Putin's speech. He wasn't wrong. Like, he has revisionist history, but his assessment of the Western culture, he's not wrong.
Yeah. Come on, you were going somewhere deep with that. And I'm not talking about the Putin speech. You were going somewhere and you wandered off there.
No, he wasn't wrong with the poisoning of the left of the entirety of the Western society, and the fact that just like they're trying to push it here, they're trying to do the same thing in Russia.
Right.
You know, and they're trying because they're
trying to do the same thing all over the world. Look at what happened in, what was it, Italy, where they got the new prime minister.
Yeah.
And they automatically go to a fascist and comparing her to Mussolini.
Yeah, redefining the term of fascist.
Oh, they long since redefined that.
Yeah.
Luckily, they don't own dictionary.com for some reason.
Yeah. Have you heard the latest about the FBI being, our last podcast was about the abuse of the 3-letter agencies? about they just raided a pro-life conservatives home.
Hauk, the Catholic
The Catholic what I can't.
protester.
Yeah, the pro-life. They came in. He's never been violent at all, from everything I've heard. He's always and he had told them that he would come in if they wanted him to, but yet they raided his home with SWAT, 20 SWAT, put a gun to his head, dragged him out with his kids there screaming. He had 7 kids. He's had 14. He has 7 kids, and they raided their house, his house.
Not in the FBI's defense, but there wasn't a SWAT team. There was just 20 FBI agents with riot gear
and shields,
long
and
rifles,
and,
for a non-violent
busting down his door. It's somebody who already said that he would that he would walk in if they asked him to. It's like, so the FBI needs to try to explain this one and why they felt it was appropriate to raid this guy's house. People argue it wasn't a raid. They might have had, I don't know, but they came into this guy's house with guns drawn, with riot shields, with 20 people.
Because
it's not non-violent. So
it's not about justice. It's about
that.
Intimidation. It's about, hey, conservatives, this is what's going to happen to you if you don't shut up and do what we tell you to do.
Yeah. So
lucky for us, we're not going to just shut up.
Yeah.
I think we need to start taking some of the left's tactics, but unfortunately, I don't think we can do that until we have at least a 50-50 split, in these organizations, or some sort of bipartisan support, because we need to start playing by their rules. It's done with the nicey nice times. I'm done playing patty cake. I'm ready to, when it comes to this and taking care of our country, I'm ready to just mow them down and figure it out later. That's what they're doing. They had over 100 days of death and destruction in the United States.
We need to do a whole podcast on the left's riots and how they keep trying to make the conservatives out to be these horrible, violent, racist rioters, when it's the left and the left organizations which are causing billions and billions of dollars in damage and killing.
That's a consistent thing for the left.
More towards Rob's solution of everything. So
no matter what, if the left is accusing somebody of doing it, they're doing it.
Right.
Well, I mean,
that's the projection.
You have riot after riot after riot after riot where people are killed, property is damaged in the billions of dollars, and then a few conservatives cause some minor damage on January 6th, and that's all they talk about.
Yeah, and only one person died.
One person was died. It wasn't even an officer, and they keep saying, "Oh, there's been 2, 3, 4 officers killed on the January 6th riots," and it's like, no officers were killed. It was one woman who was shot by an officer, and she wasn't even being violent. I mean, they've shown the videos,
and she wasn't even armed.
Yeah,
and then AOC.
And you notice when the Capitol was actually attacked by Antifa and BLM, they didn't say a word about it. Anyway, we're close to an hour. Brian, do you want to wrap on our actual topic about the fentanyl? Go ahead and give your.
Well, just 2 seconds real quick. AOC was saying she feared for her life during that riot, and she was in a building across the street that never saw protesters.
Right.
Yep.
And she was scared of a cop coming to look for her to take her to safety.
Yeah. And she was never involved with any of the riots. They were not there at the time. She was across the street where no rioters were. So she loves to make fans.
Welcome, revelers. This is RVL, right versus left. The left is evil. I'm Rob B. And with me, as always.
And I'm Brad Lee.
And I'm Brian G.
And we're here. We're talking about the things that the left is trying to do in this country. We want to make sure that everything's out there and you get a perspective from normal people. So we can make sure that everybody sees that the left is evil.
Evil.